What is going on, everybody? My name is Joe Wagner. I'm your host here of the Sports Outlet Show, alongside Brent Allegra and Braden Wilkins, as always. Maybe a fourth star here tonight. If you listened in last night, you know who it is. If not, you're in for a surprise here on the Sports Outlet Show, guys. Little history fact here before we kind of get kicked off here for this episode. This is the first time ever the Sports Outlet Show has gone back-to-back, and it's 3 years of history. So something exciting brewing here in the Sports Outlet Show history, as we are less than 24 hours from the NFL. Boys, how are we feeling?
I'm excited. I'm ready to talk about the NFC. Probably talent-wise, a little bit lesser than the AFC, but my personal favorite of the two conferences, with given a little bit of bias with me being a Giants fan. I'm sure you guys feel the same way as a Panthers fan and Eagles fan, but I'm excited to get into it tonight.
Yeah, Braden, how are we doing?
I'm so excited. Like you said, less than 24 hours away. Can't believe we're already back, and I'm ready to get going.
Super pumped. You guys hung out with us last night. We have a Broncos fan in the booth here again today. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Carson Allegra to the stage. Back-to-back here appearances. That's never happened in Sports Outlet Show history or for a guest appearance before. Carson, that's a monumental task here.
I know. I can never live up to Chris, though, so don't compare me to him.
I'm loving the theme, guys. The whiteout effect tonight. This wasn't even planned. I love it.
Penn State, we are.
No, we're not. We're really not. Thanks for tuning in with us. Sorry for the bit of delay here, but we'll just kick off right now. You see our names are in a beautiful 49ers red font. No better way to start with Brock Purdy and the San Francisco 49ers. This team going 13-4, number 2 seed in the NFC, first in the NFC West last season. The NFC West used to be one of the divisions that honestly kind of controlled football a little bit between the Niners, the Rams, and the Seahawks. Obviously, a little bit of a different story in 2022. We'll dive deep into this real quick. Injury Palooza was the downfall of this 49ers team, getting smacked 7-31 in the NFC Championship. Brock Purdy not even being able to throw the ball. Christian McCaffrey stumbling. George Kittle having an injury. Brandon Ayuk, disciplinary issues plus injury. I mean, this team was in shambles in the playoffs. It was Lollapalooza for the Philadelphia Eagles to make the Super Bowl here against a 7-31 absolute smackdown. The 49ers and head coach Kyle Shanahan got a taste of their own medicine of the offensive firepower they had on their team all season. Speaking of Shanahan, he's 52-46 in his tenure with the 49ers, being 6-3. But it's about those big moments when you think about a head coach. That's what make or breaks them. That's why Bill Belichick has been such a dominant force, why Sean Payton had such a great playoff record in his tenure with the New Orleans Saints, now with Denver Broncos head coach, with the eyebrow raise there from Carson Allegra. Other than that, he's 1-4 in NFC Championships / Super Bowls. Personally, could that be a big game issue? Is the anxiety getting to Shanahan, or is it just a overall 49ers problem? No, we're not talking about the Colin Kaepernick era. We're going back into 2019 in the Super Bowl when they lost to the Kansas City Chiefs. That's the only NFC Championship game Shanahan has won in his tenure. He has lost in 21 and 22 in NFC Championships, and then in 19 in the Super Bowl, being 1-4 overall. That's not something too impressive, and something maybe to be wary about, that Shanahan can't take this team basically to the holy grail of the Lombardi Trophy. Obviously, the big story here is around quarterback. The Mr. Irrelevant of 2022, Brock Purdy, is in as the starter, is supposedly fully healed from his injury in 22, ready to start week 1. backup Sam Darnold coming in from the Carolina Panthers, former New York Jets draftee in the 3rd pick, is going to be his backup for this season. But the big story is the 4th-round conditional transfer pick to the Dallas Cowboys in Trey Lance. Huge story there, an absolute flop pick, someone that it was in the top 5 in the draft. That's something you haven't seen in a very long time, someone that never really got a shot, who will possibly be backing up Dak Prescott, possibly be backing up Cooper Rush in the 3rd string. I think that's something that'll be going up and down because Cooper Rush. Anyways, keys to this team, I think it's their quadruple-headed dragon. It's Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, and George Kittle. If this crew stays healthy, it is by far the best speed and agility offense in the NFL. CMC is a force to be reckoned with in himself. He's possibly, debatably, the best running back in the NFL. Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk, by far, besides maybe Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, could be one of the best, fastest dual-threat wide receiver duos in the league. And George Kittle easily makes a case every year to be a top 3 to top 5 tight end. If Brock Purdy can throw for 200 yards and they run for another 200, this defense is also phenomenal behind Nick Bosa. I mean, this team definitely has a lot of value to them. I had the San Francisco 49ers this season going at 12-5. And honestly, their ceiling's probably not much lower than that, guys. For me personally, I think they go 11-6 at the very worst. But I would love some takes. I know last night we went through some spreads, some floor ceilings. We'll just kind of run with it. We won't throw any graphics up on the screen here for time tonight. But thoughts on the 49ers, and obviously there's some NFC blood battle wanted here, losing to the Eagles in the championship.
Yeah, you mentioned Nick Bosa. He actually just got extended today. There was a little bit of a holdout there, a little bit of contract dispute, but it was resolved, rightfully so. Nick Bosa is one of the best players in the NFL, in the period. So it's good to see him get his bag. This team is great. Joe highlighted it. I'm excited to see a full season of Christian McCaffrey on the 49ers. I think he brings a huge, huge element to this offense. The quarterback for the Niners isn't necessarily an integral part of the team based on Kyle Shanahan's system, the way he runs the offense. So I don't think having Purdy in there for the whole season is necessarily going to be a detriment or a big positive if he ends up playing well. I think the Niners are still going to be just as good as last season, if not better. I have them 12-5, first in the NFC.
Yeah, I'll piggyback off of that. This isn't any hate to Brock Purdy or anything, but outside of quarterback, I think they have the best roster in the NFL besides quarterback. Now, Brock Purdy could be good this year, and they could have the best roster in general, but I do have them being very good this season, just as they have been the past 3 seasons. I have them going 13-4 and getting the number 2 seed in the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm with you guys 100%. I think quarterback play doesn't particularly matter in this case. Kyle Shanahan runs a great system despite the quarterback play. I think I have this team going 10-7, the 3rd seed in the AFC, and they are going to be my NFC contender in the Super Bowl this year.
Wow, he just threw the Eagles under the bus real fast.
Well, it's hard to get back there 2 years in a row.
That's true.
Georgia Bulldogs did
it. We are the Georgia Bulldogs.
Well, that got a very bright green, so I guess we'll talk about the Geno Smith. The second best – sorry. There are 3 Genos that are the best in the world. Number 1 is Geno Wagner. It's the greatest dog in history. Number 2 is Evgeny Geno Malkin, and then number 3, maybe Geno Smith. We'll talk about the Seahawks.
Hey, I'm glad you mentioned Geno Smith because they wrote him off, but he did not write back last season. That is the story of Geno Smith and the Seahawks from 2022. I'm sorry, Carson, but ever since Geno went out there and showed that he had something to prove against the team and quarterback that he really wanted to stick it to in the Broncos, there was no going back for this team. All season long, they surprised, and it was really something to watch. considering my preseason vibes had them going like 5-12 or something. I did not have high hopes for the Seahawks going into the season, but they proved me wrong each step of the way. Like I mentioned, Geno Smith showed something that we haven't seen in him since he was drafted as the 39th overall selection by the Jets in 2013. He bounced around from team to team, mostly in a backup role, before finally getting a chance to prove himself once again last season, and boy did he. He went for over 4,200 yards, 30 touchdowns, and 11 picks, and he was the 5th overall quarterback in fantasy football. Talk about a resurgence. Enough so that the Seahawks decided to bring him back on a 3-year, $75 million deal. Other additions to this team include the return of Bobby Wagner, Julian Love, Jerron Reed, Devin Bush, and Evan Brown. They also had a pretty amazing draft, adding who I think was the best wide receiver in the entire 2023 draft class in Jackson Smith-Njigba. They added a top corner talent in Devin Witherspoon, Derek Hall, and a good complement to Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. This offseason will be something to watch as the Seahawks look to further improve on their impressive 2022. And with that being said, I do think this team will take a further step up, adding one more win than they did last year, going for 10-7 and securing the 6th overall seed in the NFC.
I'm going to jump in and be the bearer of bad news here, I guess. Somebody had to do it. I don't know. It'll be me. The Legion of Boom is dead. That's pretty. Although the fact of Bobby Wagner returning, I mean the only difference there of the Seahawks defense. I mean, I think of the Seattle Seahawks, and Brent, you made a really hard case for me to go against it, but I'm still going to stick with what I had on our sheet from the beginning. I have the Seahawks at 6-11. I believe of a one-team wonder, and Geno Smith's contract is dumb stupid to me. I'm not hating, but we've seen the one-hit wonders before, and I love watching Geno Smith play. First of all, he's got the best dog name in the world. My dog's name is Gino, if you didn't already know that, viewers. But, I mean, you think about this team, they're getting old at wide receiver with Tyler Lockett. DK Metcalf still has a couple years. There's not a huge answer at tight end for me. The offensive line is a little crumbling, and Geno Smith had one great season in his entire tenure of being a backup quarterback. So I see 6-11.
You know, I can respect
that's
that,
just
Joe.
because the Rams are without Cooper Kupp.
For a little bit.
They might not have a Legion of Boom, but they've sort of turned it into a no-fly zone with Tariq Woolen and the other quarterback that they drafted,
Devin
Witherspoon. Sorry, couldn't think of the name for a second. Yeah. They've sort of turned it into a no-fly zone with some of the best young quarterbacks in the NFL at this point, or some of the best young talents there at least. I had them going 9-8 and securing that 7 spot yet again, but I could see their floor being around where Joe put them, even as low as 5 wins.
Yeah, I'm in a similar situation as Brent and Braden here. I think this receiving group is insanely good, and they could be the best wide receiver room in the league, maybe surpassing the Bengals. Their running back core is also really good. I just don't see a way that Geno can be as bad as he has been. I see him having another good season like he did last year, and I have them going 10-7 and being the number 5 seed in the playoffs.
Well, we'll see if that's enough to get them to squeak by here. If you listen to the AFC podcast, we have the full playoff prediction based off of all of us picking all 18 weeks of football. Super excited to roll that out here. But we'll continue on here with the 2021 reigning Super Bowl champions.
Yeah, the Rams were not as good as everyone hoped they would last year. They went 5-12 and got third in the NFC West. They dealt with injuries all year. It seems like every single one of their good players, maybe besides Jalen Ramsey, was hurt at some point last year. And speaking of Jalen Ramsey, they lost him in a trade to the Dolphins, and I don't think they got much. That they got Hunter Long and a 3rd round pick. I don't think that's enough for a top 5 cornerback in the NFL, and I think they should have gotten much more for him. Cooper Kupp's injured again. Hamstring injuries are always nagging, and he could be out a while. I heard Sean McVay said he could potentially go on IR sometime soon. I hope that doesn't happen for him, but he could. Defense, outside of Aaron Donald, there's not much there. I can probably only name like 2 or 3 other players on that defense in total, which just shows how bad they are. They lost a bunch of players over the offseason. I already named Jalen Ramsey. They also lost Bobby Wagner, Leonard Floyd, Allen Robinson, Greg Gaines, and so many others. I think after this season, I'm predicting that Aaron Donald's going to retire, first off. And I think they're going to go into full rebuild mode after this season. The keys to success for this team is Sean McVay will have to have a coaching masterclass for them to do anything in this conference. Stafford's going to have to get back to good form, and Kupp is going to have to come back sooner than he wants to, and has to stay healthy for the rest of the year. I have them doing worse than last year. I have them going 4-13 and missing the playoffs.
Yeah, Carson, I actually respect and like that. The Rams fell off an absolute cliff, and it has nothing to do with Sean McVay or Matthew Stafford. It has the fact to do of the matter that this team cannot stay healthy at all, and that they're churning wide receivers such as Allen Robinson and Robert Woods through the grinder. And when Cooper Kupp's not available and Cam Akers has his 8th torn ACL of the season, like this offense has no firepower. Like Matthew Stafford can't even connect with the team. He can't connect with the younger players, according to like 8,000 reports on Twitter. So, I mean, it has nothing to do against McVay. I still believe he may have the case to be one of the best coaches in the NFL. And if he makes this team to a playoff team, give him coach of the friggin' year. I mean, Carson, I loved that. Braden, you got anything?
No, I don't have too much else to add. I have them at 7-10. Not much more wins than Carson had, but yeah, I mean, I hope Cooper Kupp, for the sake of my fantasy team, gets out there sooner rather than later. If he is out there, he's one of the best wide receivers in the game when healthy. So I think that's good for a few wins there. But other than that, I mean, yeah, Aaron Donald's still there. He's one of the best in the game, but there's just not much other talent. So 7-10 for me.
Travis Kelce questionable tomorrow, Brent. We'll see. We'll see.
I don't have too much more to say.
Good old.
I don't think. I think y'all said pretty much everything there is to say about them. I have them going 6-11.
Braden, I don't have much to say about this next team, so I'm gonna let you take a segment here, and hold on, let me take a breath. Okay. All right. I'm ready. Are you ready? Because I'm ready. Let's just do it. Not the Cardinals. No, he may have died.
He just doesn't want to talk about this garbage team.
Honestly, I wouldn't want to either.
Yeah. Last year they went 4-13. 4-13. Jonathan Gannon, the former Eagles.
It's okay.
Back.
We don't need to hear about it. I can hear you now.
Time, apparently.
Oh no.
You can hear me now?
A little bit.
Yeah.
It's all good. We never have problems on the Sports Outlet Show history, so I'm okay when we do. It means we're human.
Hello.
There's just a bit of a delay right now, I believe.
I can hear him.
We good?
Yep, we're good.
Are you good, Braden?
Yeah, I just
I don't think you can hear
Braden.
us.
I can hear you. Are we good?
From what I know, we should be. I can hear you.
I think we're
Okay.
good now.
I just really do not want to talk about this team. I'm sorry.
All right, just reel
Jonathan
it off
Gannon,
if
the
we miss
former-
anything.
Fair enough. All right. Jonathan Gannon is our head coach. He's a former Eagles defensive coordinator. This guy was interviewed for the head coaching grade of some draft picks. It's a great start of Gannon's tenure. Their quarterback, Captain Kyler Murray, is tending an ACL tear, and their week 1 quarterback has not been announced. The rest of the team is not great at all. They have Marquise Brown, Zach Ertz. Yeah, Kyler's taking a break. He's playing some video games while he's tending his injury. They have Marquise Brown, Zach Ertz, James Conner, and Budda Baker. Other than that, there's not that much to be excited about. They did add right tackle Paris Johnson Jr. in the draft. Winning this division would shock the world, and they would have to do a whole lot, and they would need some help. They would need Brock Purdy to prove his irrelevancy. They would need Geno to right back, and the Rams stars to be out for the season. And they'd still have to find a way to win a football game. I'm going 2-15 as the 16th seed, and the worst team in the NFL.
Talk about a 1 minute downright disrespectful manhunt.
They're terrible. They're garbage.
They're pretty bad.
No, Braden, I don't blame you for having them at 2-15 because I have them at 0-17. I think they're that bad.
Not the Cleveland Browns.
I think they could get 0 wins.
Well, if they somehow get 0 wins, Caleb Williams will be entering another season at USC. Let me guarantee that for you right now.
I think he's already thinking about it.
Dude, that's why he threw it out there.
Yeah.
I have nothing on the Arizona Cardinals. Quite literally nothing. I would love to talk about J.J. Watt, but he's not there anymore, so I got nothing. I'd love to talk about Zach Ertz, but I know he's a little hurt. Got nothing. Would love to talk about former Boomer Sooner OU quarterback Kyler Murray. He's not playing. I got nothing.
I wanted to put him at 0-17, but I think when Kyler comes back, they're going to sneak out one game. I got him going 1-16.
It's still disrespectful.
So what I'm hearing is the Cardinals are going 12-5. That's what I'm hearing. That's what I'm hearing. Anyways,
Hey, we said the
let's
Seahawks were
shift
the worst
gears
team in
here.
the league last year.
Let's shift gears here to the Carolina Panthers. Okay, I know that team. Just Josh. Carolina Panthers, who went 7-10. Yes, 7-10 was good enough to go second in the NFC South. It's because 2 other teams did it too, but we know how to win tiebreakers so that we can have a harder schedule in 2023, baby. Carolina Panthers, I mean, there's a couple things to break down here, but I'll be rather blunt and quick about it, as I always am with this team. Bye-bye, Matt Rule. Good job, 0-1 in Nebraska. Steve Wilkes led this team to 6-6. Honestly, gave us a game that mattered on January 2nd. I can't remember the last time a game mattered in January for this team, considering they have not made the playoffs since 2017, have not won the division since 2015, Super Bowl year where we lost to yours truly, Denver Broncos. Frank Reich coming in as the new – get out of here. Frank Reich coming in as the new head coach. His main story is the Andrew Luck prodigy. He was known to develop and get the Stanford quarterback to be the absolute beast that he was while he was playing in the NFL. Oh boy. I got 2 major things here as we go down to 3. Braden hates the Panthers, I guess. It's Bryce Young and Brian Burns personally. It's the BB combo. First of all is roll with the kid and pay the man. What is
It's not going to work.
Oh, get out of here. He's not on the team. He's not on the team anymore, Carson. He's not on the team.
Just had to bring it up.
I was talking about Von Miller, not Cam Newton. Trash. Anyways, the Carolina Panthers, my key for them to win is to limit turnovers and win the one-score games they could not, and that takes two keys. Number one, learn how to make a field goal to win a game. I'm talking to you, Eddie Pinheiro. I'm talking to you. Number two, if you score a 65-yard touchdown and are out of the field of play, just don't take your helmet off. It's apparently not allowed. That's all I got. Even if you're on the sideline, even if you're not on the sideline, don't take your helmet off. It's not allowed. Anyways, favorite combo here, Bryce Young and Jonathan Mingo. I'm extremely excited to watch the two of them ball out as much as they possibly can. We are the island of average misfits, so that might be all we need this season. In my opinion, easily, I don't even know if there's a debate. We have the best defense in the NFC South. If that's something that we can roll with and work with, especially pray to my Lord and Savior God and Jesus Christ that just please Brian Burns play week 1 and please pay the man Frank Reich. That's all I got. Other than that, my prediction for the Carolina Panthers, it's a little bit off of what you guys have, but we'll talk more into depth into it. I had them going at 8-9, which is actually, in my opinion, just enough to win this division. Whoever wins this division is going to be the 4 seed. There's no doubt in my mind about that. And that's still a playoff appearance, so I'm cool with it.
Yeah, Joe, you're actually not too far off from what I have them at. I have them at 7-10. I think they're a respectable team, even with a rookie quarterback. They went 7-10 last year. That was with poor quarterback play, and I don't think Bryce Young will be worse than that, even though he is a rookie. Like you mentioned, they have a great defense. I really like the prospect of Jonathan Mingo. I have a few shares of him in fantasy. So I'm hoping he balls out. I love those Ole Miss wide receivers. So I'm excited to see what the Panthers can do this season.
Yeah, I also have them at 7-10. I will not add too much more than that, but I think Brian Burns could be a Defensive Player of the Year candidate this year. I think he's that good and that talented.
I mean, I absolutely love the combination
of very respectable.
Oh, go ahead. My bad. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I got him going at 6-11. Unfortunately, I wish I could pull some more wins out of there, but I was struggling to find some. I think it's just a weird division. There's gonna be some weird stuff going on it this year. That's all I got to say.
6-11. Brandon gets no buffalo chicken dip this Sunday.
I'm sorry.
Okay. In all reality about this division, real quick, I full-heartedly believe this is a 2-horse race between the Panthers and the Saints. I think the Buccaneers, if Baker Mayfield comes out and plays ball, I think the Buccaneers can come and sneak up. But transitioning into this, really, this Falcons team is absolute trash. They got some highlights, but Brent, I believe it's you who has them. I'll let you talk about them.
Yeah, the Atlanta Falcons, they were seemingly in the thick of things in the NFC South last season, like every single team in this division, all the way up until the very end, it seemed like. They went 7-10. While that might not look good on paper, Falcons fans will tell you that what they witnessed was promising. If the turning of the tide to Desmond Ridder wasn't enough to make Falcons fans giddy, this team also made an abundance of moves throughout the offseason. Probably their biggest free agency signing was Jesse Bates, but this team also made a lot of other moves that kind of went under the radar, those being re-signing Lorenzo Carter, adding Bud Dupree, Mac Hollins, Taylor Heineke, and Calais Campbell. The draft also turned some heads entering this season, with the most notable draft pick being Bijan Robinson, who has seemingly climbed fantasy boards and even has me wishing that I at least got one share of him in my leagues, but sadly I did not. As we have noticed in recent years, rookie running backs can really take a great step, and if I would bet on anyone to do it, it would be Bijan, given the type of prospect and dual threat he was in college. With all those moves being said, Falcons fans and even a lot of analysts have picked the Falcons to be their dark horse winner of this division. Am I there yet? Personally, no. I still feel that this team has a lot of work to do on both sides of the ball, and with the NFL being so pass heavy in recent years, I think they're going to need a lot better of an option than Desmond Ridder at the helm. I have them going 6-11, which is second to last in the NFC in my standings.
Yeah, Brent, I think you touched on it mostly is the two factors of this team on offense, just watching the NFC South ball, and ball is a strong term, is the fact of the young guns of Bijan Robinson and Drake London. I think they have very, very promising NFL careers ahead of them. As much as I hate to say that, watching them come into the NFC South for the first year for Bijan, as well as Drake London coming into his second year. Quarterback play was so inconsistent last season. We saw with Kyle Pitts, and his numbers dropped last season as well. So if Desmond Ridder can even be half the quarterback that Marcus Mariota was able to be for a full season, I think Drake London could easily top 1,000 yards this season. Obviously, not transition fully into a Calvin Ridley role, but definitely take that wide receiver one spot. But I also love the backfield options between Robinson, Cordarrelle Patterson, and Tyler Algier. That's something I feel like people are not talking about enough. Bijan's obviously the head guy, but he is not a 3-down back, and Cordarrelle Patterson is one of the biggest kick return, punt return, and third down threats in the NFL. So that's something to look at as well.
Yeah, I'm on the same page as you guys. I have him at 5-12. I'm also not as high on Bijan Robinson as most people are this year. I think he's the best running back prospect we've had in a while, but that running back room is extremely stacked. I don't see him being the elite fantasy option that people are hoping he will be, because I think Algier and Patterson will both get a decent amount of work as well. There's not much more for me to say about this team. It's bad from top to bottom, and I don't see a way they can make the playoffs.
That defense is terrible.
Yeah.
Did y'all see that on their depth chart they have Cordarrelle Patterson listed as J for Joker?
Do they actually?
Yeah, they do.
They do.
Huh. Interesting. Sure. With that, we'll take it to the NFC champions, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Oh, this team was not as good as everyone thought they would be. They went 8-9 with the GOAT at quarterback. And I mainly blame their head coach, Todd Bowles, for that. In my opinion, I think Todd Bowles has the hottest seat in the NFL. I personally think he gets fired after the season because he went 8-9 last year with the greatest quarterback of all time. I just don't see a way that he's going to do well with Baker Mayfield this season. I say he either gets fired in season or at the end of the season. They somehow miraculously made the playoffs last year. They faced the Cowboys in the wild card, and they lost to them, and it was not close. I guess some bright spots on this team is they drafted Kalaji Kancey. He was the 19th pick in the draft, and people were giving him the comparison of Aaron Donald, probably a more watered-down version of Aaron Donald, but he plays similar. The defense is pretty good. I can't say it's a top 5 unit, but it's a pretty good roster. I don't think it's good enough to make the playoffs or anything, but maybe it'll be good enough to win a few games. I do have a breakout player here. I have Rachaad White. With Leonard Fournette not in the offense anymore, I think Rachaad White is in for a huge season. He's a versatile weapon that will be the focus point of the rushing attack. The QB battle, it's not a battle anymore. Baker Mayfield won the job, but I still think Kyle Trask will be right behind him, and they won't settle for Baker to be bad. They'll put Kyle Trask in if Baker's not doing well in the first first few weeks. The key to success is Baker Mayfield balling out. Joe touched on it earlier. Baker Mayfield's going to have to act like a number 1 overall pick. He hasn't since, but that's the only way they're going to do anything in this division. I have them going 3-14 and getting last in the division.
It definitely have the offensive weapons. Honestly, this might not even be that hot of a take. This might be the best weapons class that Baker Mayfield is coming into a team with. Obviously not college. We're not talking about when he was playing at OU being the best quarterback in college football, possibly debatably the best Heisman in history. But Chris Godwin and Mike Evans are 2 threats of their own. I love the take on Rachaad White, Carson. I 1,000% agree. He's never had a chance to shine between Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones, taking up some gaps in that backfield. Absolutely love that. Cameron Brate should be looking to get some additional snaps as well this year with Robert Gronkowski being retired. And I'm just hoping they don't put it together as a Carolina Panthers fan, but love the takes. Brent, Braden?
Yeah, not too much to add there. I don't think they'll be very good, rightfully so. They weren't very good last year with Tom Brady. Granted, Tom Brady showed signs of decline last year. I do want to mention that. But Baker probably isn't the best option. So I have them going 7-10.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I have them going 6-11. Yeah, this is going to be an interesting team. It's going to be interesting to see what Baker can do with these weapons, but I don't think it's going to be too much.
Yeah, I'm intrigued to see what happens when this divisional play starts, because that's what's going to make or break this division. Of a 8 to 9 win team that's going to take that 4 spot is what it's going to be seeming like for the most part. Let's transition over here to possibly the NFC South favorites. Braden, talk to me about the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah, they went 7-10 last season. As you can see, they were the 12th seed in the NFC. Head coach Dennis Allen is trying to fill the shoes of Sean Payton. A playoff berth this season would be a good start. Derek Carr is in town after the debacle between Andy Dalton and James Winston last season. Star running back Alvin Kamara is suspended for a stint, but the 2022 rushing touchdown leader Jamal Williams will fill his shoes for a little bit. The receiving core will be great, especially if Michael Thomas can stay healthy for once. They also have sophomore star Chris Olave. Defensively, Marshawn Lattimore is elite. Cameron Jordan is still great, and the safety duo of Tyrann Mathieu and Marcus May is going to be very fun to watch. This division isn't exactly the strongest, so if all goes right, I think any of these 4 teams could win this division. In order for the Saints to do it, Derek Carr needs to show the signs of greatness that he's flashed in the past. The defense needs to be strong, and if both the offense and the defense are firing on all cylinders, they can take down the South. I had them going 7-10 again this year, finishing the 11 seed in the NFC.
Braden said a couple things there that terrifies me, and it's the fact of Alvin Kamara being suspended 3 games. Obviously, Carolina playing New Orleans in week 2 is going to be a huge one, especially after coming out of Atlanta in week 1. So a third of your divisional matchups in your first 2 weeks with a rookie quarterback is terrifying in its own entity. But the fact that their best running back is not playing and Jamal Williams is the guy you have to face is not fun, considering he's bigger, stronger, and much more of a beast running in between the tackles, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Thomas coming off injury is a huge thing as well for the Saints. If he comes back anywhere near 2019 form, if he's matched up against CJ Henderson, we are effed. That's the easiest way I can state that problem as well. Obviously, Jawan Johnson becoming a huge threat at tight end too. He's been putting up a lot of touchdowns in the red zone for fantasy owners as well. I'll be starting him this week if Kelsey decides to not play. But for the Saints, you talked about Derek Carr, and in my opinion, Chris Olave is like, I can't
stud.
say he's gonna be offensive player of the year because that's like just out of the question. But like, I'm terrified he's gonna have a monster year. He's gonna pop off.
I think he could have a Devontae Adams type season, like
I agree.
with the Raiders, like he did last year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, usually wide receivers tend to break out in that second year. I could definitely see it happening with Chris Olave. But Joe, you mentioned Michael Thomas, and that's one of the most intriguing things to me about the Saints this season. Michael Thomas, he hasn't really played much the past 3 seasons, but when he's been on the field, even last year, he was actually pretty good, surprisingly. So I'm excited to see what he looks like, hopefully in what will be a majority of a season. I want to see what he's like out there. Maybe he can get back to fantasy relevancy. I would personally love to see that. So I'm interested to watch Michael Thomas this season.
Big Ohio State room.
I only have one more thing to add to that. Along with the Alvin Kamara injury or suspension, Marcus May also got arrested for aggravated assault with a firearm. So he also could be getting suspended here soon. So that would be a big loss for their secondary.
I forgot about that one. I don't know how that one slipped my memory.
I'm super intrigued on how this backfield is going to work when Alvin Kamara comes back, especially if I believe what's going to happen with Jamal Williams the first 3 weeks. I think Jamal Williams might score like 6 or 7 touchdowns, and I'm not even kidding.
He scored a whole lot last year.
It is terrifying. Yeah. As a week 2 opponent, I will be trembling.
If they can get on the goal line, many touchdowns are going.
Yeah, he is almost as unstoppable as Jalen Hurts in the Eagles offense on 4th and 1. It's a hell of a comparison, and it's basically the truth. Before we roll in here to the NFC North and then into the highly anticipated NFC East, I do have the average wins up here for the 7 teams from the AFC. We'll do the NFC as well. And at the very end here, we'll put those matchups up on the screen, and we will do a super quick get you all the way to the Super Bowl winner here for the Sports Outlet Show. But I'll read it off real quick. In the number 1 seed with 13, 13, 12, and 13 wins of an average of 12.75, the number 1 overall seed this year in the Sports Outlet Show is going to be the Buffalo Bills. I think it's a pretty decent take for the AFC East. I think they win this division. It looks like I believe all of us had them winning this division. Taking the number 1 seed. Going in at number 2 with the win totals of 12, 12, 12, and 11. So we're basically all on the same front there as well. At number 2, the Kansas City Chiefs with 11.75 average wins. Look for them here. They're not going to get that bye of the Buffalo Bills, but they will be playing the 7 seed here, which we'll be talking about here real shortly. In that tiebreaker, however, losing the tiebreaker with 11.75 average wins. Yeah, I went into the tiebreakers, boys. With 13, 13, 10, and 11 wins is the Cincinnati Bengals winning the AFC North. Surprising considering all of us agreeing on the Pittsburgh Steelers last night. So maybe some things changed on the playoff predictor from the other day. But, I mean, it could have just been how the averages hashed out, them taking the AFC North. That obviously leaves the AFC South. The South is the worst in both of the conferences. With 11 wins, 12 wins, 10 wins, and 10 wins, there is no surprise here at 10.75 with the Jacksonville Jaguars taking the number 4 seed. They will be playing the number 5 seed. We'll just transition straight into that. With 11, 11, 11, and 10. General consensus here as well, guys. The Pittsburgh Steelers at number 5, taking 10.75 wins. They will be playing the Jacksonville Jaguars in the playoffs of the wild card round. Keep that in the back of your mind when we get to the end here. Going into number 6 at 9.75, so a whole average win less, so a little bit of a drop here, is going to be a team that had 9, 11, 11, and 8. So a little bit of a skew there, actually, some controversy. Also a team in the AFC North. The Baltimore Ravens are going to be appearing in this year's game They'll be facing an AFC North opponent in the Cincinnati Bengals with the 11.75, a 2 average win deficit. We'll talk more about Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson as we get to the end here as well. Final spot, bit of a surprise here based off of what was talked about yesterday. 10 wins, 12 wins, 9 wins, and 7 wins. Anybody got a guess?
Chargers?
It's the Jets.
Brent, Braden?
Oh.
Yeah, it's probably the Jets.
At 9.5 wins, it is your Hard Knocks team, the New York Jets, who will be taking on the Kansas City Chiefs here in the Sports Outlet Show playoffs. We will be back in action here after we discuss the rest of the NFC, and we'll give you our full NFC playoff predictions as well. I'm super pumped for it. Let's get back here into the AFC North. You're going to see the color change here in just a second. It kind of looks like the Jets, but it's not. But it is their former quarterback. The Green Bay Packers here at 8-9, third in the NFC North here as we transition back. The Green Bay Packers are going to be a storybook season this season. I think it's going to be something crazy, something different. I mean, we're talking about no Aaron Rodgers and no Brett Favre. When is the last time you could say that about the Green Bay Packers having to question mark about a franchise quarterback? Here's the question. It's a new era of Packer football underneath head coach Matt LaFleur. 47-19, a tremendous record, but still kind of a question mark in my opinion. Having Aaron Rodgers at the helm for so long, being 2-3 in the postseason, obviously losing to the Lions in Week 18 last season and Sunday Night Football, not obtaining that number 7 seed, gifting it to the Seattle Seahawks as Jared Goff and Jamal Williams went absolutely crazy on prime time. My kind of look at for them is no Rodgers, no Lazard, no Cobb, no problem. And I say that, no problem, question mark. That's the basis of the Green Bay Packers. Jordan Love is taking his shot in Green Bay, one of the most controversial picks since maybe talking about Jalen Hurts of the Philadelphia Eagles and Jalen Reagor of the Philadelphia Eagles, is the 2020 first-round selection and pick 26 from Utah State of Jordan Love when Aaron Rodgers didn't seem like he may have been on his way out of Green Bay, possibly, obviously leaving 3 years later. Definitely a keepsake, had some time to have the mentorship of Aaron Rodgers. We've seen very slowly, very slim of Zach Wilson's, a little bit of improvement in preseason for the New York Jets. So maybe that could be something that helps Love in his tenure here with the Packers starting in Week 1. My key for them is use the combo of Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon to take as much pressure off of the young quarterback as possible. I don't think Jordan Love is anywhere near ready for this NFC North because this is one of the highest divisions on the rise, in my opinion. Ford Field, Soldier Field, US Bank Stadium, 3 very, very difficult places to play in the NFC North. And obviously Lambeau, one of the toughest environments ever to play in, but home field advantage will help you a little bit. My prediction here for the Green Bay Packers, I'm not too high on this team, if I'm being fully honest. I do like Christian Watson. I am a fan of the backfield combo. There hasn't been a defensive presence since Clay Matthews on this team, which is a big, big problem in my opinion. I have the Green Bay Packers going at 8-9. That honestly might even be their ceiling for me. But I'm not going to be shocked if this team is dead last in the NFC North with how much I am very hyped to hear you guys talk about the Vikings, Bears, and Lions. But anything on the Packers, boys?
Yeah, no. I have the Packers in the exact same spot. 8-9 is my prediction as well. One thing that I found to be really interesting the past couple weeks that came out is that the Packers were very in on the Jonathan Taylor sweepstakes. They were trying really, really hard to trade for Jonathan Taylor, which is surprising considering they have Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon in the backfield. Maybe that's kind of a sign that Aaron Jones might be on the decline. I'm not exactly sure, but I found that to be really interesting.
Yeah, I'm very high on Aaron Jones this year, actually. I don't know if there's been any reports about it that he's on the decline or anything, but I'm very high on both Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. The main thing for me is this roster went from a veteran roster with some old guys to teach the young guys to an extremely young offense that is going to have to develop for them to do anything this year. The receiving core, I don't think a single guy on that receiving core is above the age of 23. So they don't have any veteran presence in that room, and one of them is going to have to take a big step up for Jordan Love this year. I don't have them much worse than you guys. I have them 7-10 and missing the playoffs.
Yeah, it feels weird for me to say, but I feel very optimistic about this team. I feel very optimistic about Jordan Love, but I also have them at 7 wins. So I don't know. I think this division is going to be very exciting to watch this year, but I am very optimistic about this team. Maybe just not this year, maybe a year or two in the future.
Yeah, and I definitely think those are all fair. It just seems like, in my opinion, the least exciting team in this division. And speaking of exciting, we'll just go ahead and transition straight into the NFC North winners of last season in the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah. The Minnesota Vikings were a little strange to me last year. 11 of their victories were decided by one score, and all 4 of their losses were decided by at least 11 points each. So some might say that's good luck, but others might take that as good coaching and game planning. I think it might be somewhere in the middle. It's no shocker to anyone that Justin Jefferson has solidified himself as the top receiver in the entire NFL. But is that enough to take the Vikings to the next level with Dalvin Cook walking in free agency? If that wasn't enough, the Vikings also lost some key cogs for the team, those being Dalvin Tomlinson, Patrick Peterson, and Eric Kendricks. But luckily, the Vikings were also able to bolster their secondary with the addition of Byron Murphy as well as Mekhi Blackmon and Jay Ward through the draft. But one of my favorite offseason moves was the addition of Jordan Addison. Addison was electric in his college days at Pitt and USC, and I believe he adds another weapon to an offense that already features, as I mentioned, the best wide receiver in the game in Justin Jefferson, as well as a top 5 pass-catching tight end in TJ Hawkinson. So hopefully this offense will take a step up as they transition to more of a pass-heavy approach with some of the best route runners in the game. But the story of the Vikings' success really comes down to this. Can Kirk Cousins prove to be more than just a regular season guy? And can their defense not be one of the worst in the NFL? Time will tell, but I still think this team is better than their division foes. I have their record prediction as 10-7, which is good enough for 3rd in the NFC.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I also have them 10-7, locking up that 3 seed. Actually, I think I have them the 2 seed, tied with the 49ers in record, but they have some tiebreaker somewhere. Yeah, I'm very excited about Jordan Addison. I think teams are going to put a lot of attention onto Justin Jefferson, and that's going to be a mistake because Jordan Addison can get it done just as well, and he's going to explode this year.
Yeah, I definitely I love how we talk about Justin Jefferson's going to get the attention. That's just cats in the cradle, 100% going to happen. Main guy's going to be on him. And Braden touched on it a ton that Jordan Addison's going to be an absolute, and no joke behind this, an absolute speed demon. He was huge at USC for the Trojans. And Kirk Cousins really hasn't had an absolute speedster on his team since maybe Deshaun Jackson in his tenure with the football team. And yes, I'm talking about Washington. We'll get to that. For those that don't know, I know there are football teams, but there is the football team. Long story. But we forget about KJ Osborne as well, being that number 3 who can actually be thrown into a flex in fantasy football at any given week if somebody goes down. And then you have Mr. All Reliable and TJ Hawkinson. This offense fires on all cylinders. Losing Dalvin Cook, I don't think it's going to be too much of a problem. I think that was a lot of drama around the team. I love Alexander Madison as well. So if anything, I think this offense got better.
Yeah, I don't have too much more to add. I have them a little worse than you guys. I do have them at 7-10 and missing the playoffs. But the quarterback documentary series on Netflix just made me absolutely love Kirk Cousins. That man is one of the most respectable people I've ever seen. He even has a spot in his little locker room that he has in his house for a Super Bowl trophy. And I hope he gets there one day, but I just don't see it happening.
Yeah.
He really stole that show. Straight facts.
Yeah, he did. He's a cool guy.
Very cool guy. I think it's Carson, but Carson, you get to talk, in my opinion, about the most exciting team in this division.
I do.
The Bears.
They made a lot of additions this year, so it might take me a little bit to go through them. I do have a nice Bears hat here to wear while I'm talking about them.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome!
The Bears went 3-14 last season. They were not good. Some Bears fans say that they were one score away from winning a lot of games. They could have been, but Justin Fields was not a serviceable quarterback in the passing game. He was in the rushing game, however. They brought in a lot of new players that should hopefully elevate the team. Instead of Bears.
What's up, Bears?
Some of the new additions, I'll name them off. DJ Moore, he came to Chicago in the trade with the Panthers for the number 1 overall pick, which gave the Panthers Bryce Young. I think he'll have a big role in this offense, being Fields' number 1 target. And if Fields can be a productive passer, DJ Moore should have a pretty good season this year. They also went out and signed 2 linebackers. They signed TJ Edwards, which Braden probably knows a lot about him, and Tremaine Edmonds. Both of them are solid linebackers. I believe TJ Edwards was one of the top tacklers last year. Got some of the most tackles in the league. And Tremaine Edmonds has been a great linebacker for the Bills for all of his 5 seasons of his career, and he's still only 25. He's going into his 6th season, and I think he could be even better on the Bears than he was on the Bills. The last main addition they added was Darnell Wright with their first pick this year. He was a reliable passer protector in college, but he did have some problems in the run game at times, but I think he'll be pretty solid for him. I do have 2 breakout players for them this year. I have one is Khalil Herbert. In 4 starts last year, he averaged 98 yards per game and a touchdown in each of those games. I expect big things if he gets the bulk of the carries over Deontay Foreman. Another breakout player I have for them is Jaquan Brisker. He was one of the best blitzing safeties last year. I think he had 4 sacks. And he was also very reliable in coverage. I think he's in for a big year. I hope he does very well. This team has a shot to make the playoffs if they can win the majority of their division games. Because obviously the teams in the division are not that good. They should be able to at least go 3-3, in my opinion. But I do have this team going 8-9 and just missing the playoffs.
2 things I want to add.
Go ahead.
Sorry. We're big Khalil Herbert truthers on this podcast.
Absolutely.
Love Khalil Herbert. That's number 1. Second, you didn't talk about probably the most important acquisition for the Bears during the season last year, Chase Claypool, for basically a first-round pick.
Get out. The fact he's wearing a Bears hat right now is the most dedicated thing I've ever seen.
I do love the Bears hat.
I was hoping Brent would give me.
Where's this from?
I have no idea. I've had this for probably my entire life.
Is this from like Shrek the Musical, and it's just like one of the baby bear costumes?
I have no idea.
Anyways, we're talking about a team that went 3-14 last season. But yeah, big Khalil Herbert guys. That's all I got to say on that. And the fact that I'll give you my record real quick because it's interesting. I also have them with 9 wins, but I have them at 9-7-1 because they're gonna tie the team we just talked about. Just wait for it. Anything else on the Bears?
I think we're good.
Nope.
Can Carson keep it on the rest of the podcast?
I will, just for you, Joe.
Let's go. It's okay. It's not the Bears anymore. It is going to be about the Detroit Lions. Again, another exciting team in this division. Braden, let's take the sweep here in the North.
Yeah, this Lions team, they're very, very exciting. 9-8, 8th seed last year, just missed out on the playoffs. And Dan Campbell is America's head coach. He is working his ass off to build a culture for a team that is tough as nails and will go to all-out war for their brothers. He led this team to its first winning season in 5 years and just missed out. This team is hungry and ready to go into battle with the reigning Super Bowl champs and continuing the countdown in less than 22 hours from now. Jared Goff, their quarterback, is slowly becoming one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the league, and he has weapons, headlined by Amon-Ra St. Brown, and in 6 weeks, Jameson Williams. They drafted running back Jahmyr Gibbs and tight end Sam Laporta to help Goff out. On the defensive side, there are some young guys such as Aiden Hutchinson and Jack Campbell. They also added C.J. Gardner-Johnson from the Eagles. I think this division is very open, and all these teams have a shot at winning it. I think Jared Goff needs to play how he did last year, and these guys need to stay hungrier than the rest of the division. I've been going 9-8 again, but this time locking up the 6th seed in the NFC playoffs.
Yeah, this first of all, we talk about the team that sent Aaron Rodgers to New York. I think that's the biggest thing to talk about. I'm not sure what wide receiver did it this year. Maybe Quentin Johnston. Refresh my memory if I'm wrong. But Amon-Ra St. Brown, well known for writing down every single receiver that was drafted before him. Mm-hmm. And well, damn, did that work? I mean, we can go into the list here. I got to pull it up about some of the receivers drafted before him. We'll talk about it in a second. Carson Brent here to wrap up the NFC North. What do we think about the Lions, those record predictions, and maybe somebody that's flying under the radar that you think might kind of blow up this year?
I do have them winning this division and going 10-7. I am upset about the loss of Jamal Williams. I think he was the light of that team. I think they should have found some way to keep him, but Jahmyr Gibbs is probably the better option. He pairs well with the addition of David Montgomery. I think they'll have a similar situation that they did last year with Swift and Jamal Williams, but with just Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. Again, this team, Dan Campbell is America's coach, as Braden said. I love Dan Campbell, and I really hope this team can make a push.
Yeah. Dan Campbell's the GOAT.
Yeah. Dan Campbell is a great coach. The guys seem to rally behind him. I do have some concerns with the Lions. Obviously, the run game is great. The offensive line is great. But as pass catchers outside of Amon-Ra, you don't really have much there. And that concerns me, especially as the game transitions to more of a passing attack. I think it might be a little bit of a concern, especially with Jameson Williams out the first 6 weeks of the season. I also think there's some gaps on defense as well. So I think some of these other NFC North teams are more talented on paper. And for that reason, I have them going 9-8 again and barely missing the playoffs.
Yeah, Carson, to answer your thing about Jamal Williams, there was just too many J.A.M. Williams on the team. So they had to get rid of one of them.
Yeah.
They just didn't know the other was going to get suspended for a little bit. Super quick game, and then we'll jump into our final division. Amon-Ra, better or worse? I have the 6-team receivers pulled up. Well, as soon as you hear the name, say better or worse. Don't piggyback on anybody. Don't piggyback. We don't like that. Jamar Chase.
Worse.
Better. I'm just kidding. Worse.
All right, let's how to kick Brent out of podcast. Jalen Waddle.
Worse.
Devonta Smith.
Worse.
I'd say better.
That's where it gets close for me. It's where it gets close, but I'm still going to go worse.
I need you to break it. Worse? Okay.
I'm going to go worse.
Best New York Giant, Kadarius Toney.
Better.
Worse. No, just kidding. Better.
Rashad Bateman.
Better.
Better.
Elijah Moore.
Better.
Let's save some answers here. Rondale Moore, Dwayne Eskridge, Tutu Atwell, Terrace Marshall Jr., Josh Palmer, Diami Brown, Amari Rogers, Nico Collins, Anthony Schwartz, Des Fitzpatrick.
Better combined.
Who? Yeah, pretty much.
Barely.
He's worse than all of those guys.
Jeez. Terrible. But yeah, he's at the very worse than Jamar Chase and Jalen Waddle, and has a case for Devonta Smith. So that's some excellent draft value, in my opinion. Well, I guess I got to talk about this team. Chris isn't here for it. Can't believe I got to sign this trash. Let me pull up the graphic and let me talk about them. The Washington Commanders, third time's the charm. 8-1, dead last in the NFC East. Pretty good record for being dead last in your division. A new era as Dan Schneider decides to leave. This is good news. Not the Dan Schneider of Nickelodeon, guys. We're not getting some PTSD in here. He's the GOAT. We're talking about Dan Snyder. Head coach Ron Rivera is 22-27-1 in his tenure with the Washington Commanders. Hasn't done much since his 2015 Super Bowl appearance with Carolina. My player to watch for this Washington Commanders team is somebody that I think is sophomore slump is like he wrote it on his wall and then decided to like tear it down, throw it into an alley, stomp on it, run it over with his car, throw it into the dumpster fire, burn it, and say that I'm going to go for 1,200 yards and 15 touchdowns. His name's Penn State wide receiver Jahan Dotson. I believe he's going to have an absolute monster season, same as George Pickens, in my opinion. Those are my two guys to just absolutely watch this year, especially Scary Terry possibly being out week 1 is a question mark. Sam Howell's got to throw the ball to somebody. He'll probably throw for 300 yards a game, 2 touchdowns, 5 picks. You know how he rock and rolls. Biggest question is who, where, what, when, how, why is Chase Young, and what the heck, who is he? Is he going to play a whole season, or is he going to be 2020 Chris Naylor monstrosity is the big question. He's the huge question of this Washington Commanders team because when healthy, he was in debate for one of the best defensive players in the league. So definitely something to watch out for the Ohio State Buckeye. Questionable for week 1, might not even play. This injury bug has been just absolutely dragging on. You hate to see it for someone that has such a high upside, high ceiling, high future. Unless you're playing them, then I guess you're somewhat okay with it. My key for them is play commander defense, especially if Young decides to come back. Use your weapons on offense that you do have with Brian Robinson Jr. and Antonio Gibson is not too shabby of a 1-2 punch. Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, Curtis Samuel is a really great 3 there as well. Not too much to talk about at tight end since Virginia Tech quarterback Logan Thompson kind of fell off a cliff. But other than that, play some old school ball, run the ball up the middle, tire out the defense when you have the ball, make some long drives. Don't make too many dumb mistakes if you're Sam Howell. There's not much to be expected of him this season for the Washington Commanders. As my final team here, I do have them going at 8-9, just a little bit lower than what they were. I think they can hold their own a little bit here in this very, very tight division.
I can go. Break the silence there. I'm in a similar spot as you, Joe. I have them at 9-7-1. My one team with the tie. Yeah, I think I had them tying the Jets. Yeah, I have the Commanders at 9-7-1. They're a team that actually kind of scares me a little bit. Being a Giants fan, being in the NFC East with them, I think their team is really, really good. And if they finally get good quarterback play, it's going to be a disaster for the rest of these teams. Obviously, probably not the Eagles, maybe not the Cowboys, but I think the Commanders can take a huge step up this year, and I could see it happening if they get consistent quarterback play from Sam Howell. I'm not predicting it. I'm just saying it's a possibility. So I have them at 9-7-1.
Yeah, I actually have them a little bit worse than you. I thought I was going to have the higher record for them, but I have them at 9-8. I love the addition of Eric Bieniemy. I think he's going to make this offense a lot better than it has been in years past. I also think Antonio Gibson will be a big factor in this offense, much more than Brian Robinson, in my opinion. I think he's going to be in a Jerick McKinnon type role, and I think in general. I do have them actually getting the number 6 seed in the playoffs, and one of these teams in the NFC East, it might be a little controversial, but I was thinking about putting all 3 of them in, but I can't do that. So one out of the Giants and Cowboys is not making it. We'll get to that in a second. But I think this team could be a lot, and I think they could be good, and I think they could be bad. Their ceiling's high and their floor is low. Not much more to say about that. Brayton, you have anything to add on that?
I actually have them underperforming. I have them playing more towards their floor. I think having Dan Schneider gone is going to be great for the team. I think that's going to be great eventually over time. I just think it's going to take 1 or 2 seasons for that to sort of kick into effect. I do have them going 5-12, but there could be, I think their schedule's pretty tough too, is one thing. I'm not like super hating. I have some respect. I have some hope for Sam Howell to be good. I just think their schedule is going to get in the way of that, of jumping up to reach expectations this year.
Braden, you don't mean that about Sam Howell. You saw what he did. You don't mean it.
I did. That doesn't. Hey, one game doesn't define the man.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Have you heard of Mark Sanchez in the butt fumble?
Well, yeah, that's fair.
First year ever I've gotten to talk about the Commanders and not about this team. Someone tell me about the Cowboys.
I will tell you about them. They have the same story every year. They do it great in the regular season, and in the playoffs, they blow it. They actually won a round this year in the playoffs. They beat the Buccaneers, which is not saying too much. They did, however, lose in the divisional round to the 49ers. For some reason, they thought Zeke was an offensive lineman and put him in to block one-on-one with the defensive lineman. They did add some decently big names this year. They added Brandon Cooks, who is a speedy deep threat that I think has personally lost a step. I don't see him being a huge part of this offense. I see them being a solid wide receiver 3 for him. They also went out and traded for Stephon Gilmore. In a similar story to Cooks, I think he's really good at football, but I think he's lost a big step since being the defensive player of the year. But I do think he'll be a solid cornerback alongside Trayvon Diggs. They did also go out and trade for Trey Lance. In my opinion, Trey Lance has not gotten the opportunity that he deserves because I think he tore his ACL last year. I don't know if that's correct, but I think if Dak somehow goes down with an injury or Dak plays bad, I think they should give Trey Lance a shot and see if he can do anything with it. They also drafted 2 guys that could be involved in this team. They drafted Mozzie Smith and Deuce Vaughn. Smith never lets offensive linemen get a hold of him. He has a very good SWAT move at the point of attack. And he did get into some legal trouble in the past, but I think he should be a good addition as long as they can get that taken care of. Deuce Vaughn is a short king. He looked really good in preseason, but I don't think he's going to make that too big of an impact this year, maybe in years in the future. But with the Tony Pollard injury, if he gets re-aggravated, Deuce Vaughn should be a good replacement for him. Mike McCarthy, in my opinion, is on the hot seat. Again, they have a good record in the regular season every year, but if they can't do anything in the playoffs, they got to look for someone else to elevate them to that next level. I do also have a breakout player. I have Osa Odigizua. He's the younger brother of Awamagbe Odigizua. I know Brent loves him. He had 4 sacks last year and a ton of tackles for loss. He's a really good run stopper, and I expect big things from him this year. The keys to success is Dak limiting turnovers. Dak struggled with turnovers all year last year, whether it's Noah Brown popping them up into cornerbacks' hands or it's Dak just throwing it straight to the other team. I think he needs to figure out a way to put the ball where it needs to be in his receiver's hands so they can catch it. I also say they need to run the offense through Tony Pollard. In my opinion, him and CeeDee Lamb are the best players on this team, and besides Micah Parsons. And they need to run the offense through those two, and they could have some success this year. But I don't have them making the playoffs this year. I have them going 8-9 and missing the playoffs for the first time in a while. I think Mike McCarthy's really going to hold them back, and I don't see Dak progressing this year at all. I think he's going to lead the league in turnovers just like he did last year.
First of all, Deuce Vaughn is going to take Tony Pollard's job. So that's all I got.
Short King.
Hey, a 5'7" man believes.
Yeah, I'm pretty similar actually with the Cowboys.
I actually think the Cowboys are going to do some good this year.
Go ahead, Braden.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
All right, I'm actually pretty similar with the Cowboys. Carson, I think I had them at 6 or 7 wins. Which in hindsight is actually pretty low.
I actually had the Cowboys doing some work this year. I have them going.
We love the Sports Outlet show at night. We love the Sports Outlet show at night.
I wanted to hear Braden's take. Yeah. Sorry, guys. I don't have high hopes for the Cowboys this season. I don't know why. It's more of a gut feeling than the roster construction. The roster is obviously good when you look at it on paper. I'm just not a huge believer in Dak. I'm not a huge believer in Mike McCarthy. And I think Kellen Moore was a bigger part of this offense than Cowboys fans are willing to admit. And losing him to the Chargers is a huge deal. So I have them taking a step back this year, and I don't have them in my playoff picture.
Yeah, for the Dallas Cowboys, I had them, and we'll talk about it a little bit here when we get into our playoff talks here. I had them at 10-7, just taking a couple steps here. I also think that we haven't even talked much about Ezekiel Elliott not being a part of this team. Although the production values at running back, obviously it dropped off. There's a lot that can talk about the leadership and energy that Ezekiel Elliott brought to the team, especially on Thanksgiving. Just something to watch for, maybe not having him able to run between the tackles as well. Tony Pollard and Deuce Vaughn are both smaller guys, so that could create a problem in the red zone, which is where Dak Prescott has historically struggled. And without Old Reliable and Dalton Schultz as well, again, another thing to look at. Anyone else on the boys? All right, well, per request, I got this color coming up, and it's a beautiful blue because, Brett, what color is it?
It's New York Giants blue, baby. New York Giants blue. The New York Football Giants. They finally made the playoffs again last year after failing to record above 6 wins in each of the last 5 seasons. They made the playoffs and they won a game in the playoffs against the Minnesota Vikings. It was truly a breath of fresh air, getting competent people to run our football team. And that was evidenced by Brian Daboll winning Coach of the Year and Joe Shane building a team around a cap that was truly in the dumpster left behind by Dave Gettleman. We had guys like David Sills, Jalen Smith, hell, even Landon Collins taking meaningful snaps for this team. And surprisingly, it actually worked. The thing that truly excites me, though, is that this team finally seems to be out of cap hell, and they made some moves that, in my opinion, gave them one of the best off seasons in the NFL. First of all, Their biggest transaction was adding Darren Waller to be an elite pass-catching weapon for this team that we haven't seen since the man behind me, Odell Beckham Jr. And I'm sorry, Kenny Galladay, you're not in that conversation.
Hot take. No.
Darren Waller, he has truly been uncoverable in camp. All of the beat reporters are talking about how good he is. He just looks so much better than everybody else out there. And he even had 3 catches for 30 yards in his only drive of the preseason. I don't know if Joe watched that drive. It was against the Panthers, but the Giants were firing on all cylinders, led right down the field, and scored a touchdown immediately.
I just don't like to talk about it.
The second huge thing the Giants did was retain their own. This regime was not afraid to give extensions to players that they did not draft. Those extensions include Dexter Lawrence, Andrew Thomas, Darius Slayton, Sterling Shepard, and even a guy that they had no belief in when starting this team, Daniel Jones. I'm going to go on a tangent here for a little bit because Daniel Jones needs some more respect. This guy had everything thrown at him this past season to fail. His 5th-year extension was not picked up. Players he was regularly having to throw to include David Sills, Mekhi Polk, Richie James, and Kenny Galladay, who couldn't seem to get on the field even over those guys. He had Darius Slayton and Isaiah Hodgins looking like superstars at times. This regime liked his season so much that he is officially the only quarterback in NFL history to not have their 5th-year option picked up and to be re-signed the following year. Tell me that isn't belief in your quarterback. Other free agent signings that I'm not going to get too into detail in here just for the sake of time, but they're significant. Paris Campbell, who is coming off a career year with the Colts, and Bobby Okereke at linebacker, who Braden mentioned last night was one of the only studs on that putrid Colts defense last year. But if that wasn't good enough, the New York Giants also had one of the best drafts of any team this offseason. They added a first-round talent with elite athleticism in Deonte Banks, added their starting center who has a proven commodity at the college level in John Michael Schmitz, added Jalen Hyatt, who seemingly slipped way too far in drafts. I will never stop bringing up his 5-touchdown performance against Bama last year, and even added a starting corner in Trey Hawkins in the 6th round. I know the season hasn't started yet, but damn, this draft class feels like it could be the best the Giants have had in a decade. For all the reasons I highlighted, I believe this team will be great once again, despite many analysts believing that last season was a mirage. I think they will go 10-7 and get the 5th seed in the NFC.
No Kenny Galladay, 0-17.
They finally had to cut him loose.
I'll say something about him real quick. I won't take too long because you covered almost everything, but
Facts.
I think Darren Waller will be the best fantasy tight end this year, especially with the Travis Kelce injury that might loom a little bit. But I have 3 leagues this year, and I drafted Darren Waller in every single one of them. If he can stay healthy, he's going to go insane. I know Brent's upset that I drafted him in 2 of our leagues, but I had to. I reached for him in all 3, and I think he's going to go nuclear this year.
He certainly will. I actually in my last draft, I had 3 fantasy drafts this season. In my last draft, I was going to reach 2 rounds earlier than his ADP so I could make sure I had a share of Darren Waller. And sure enough, someone grabbed him before the 2 rounds earlier than I was going to take him. It's ridiculous. But anyway, I think he's going to have an amazing season. Yeah.
Braden, anything to add, or should we roll on to the finale here? Just wait. Let's just
get it done. Let's get it done, baby.
Let's just do it. I have a surprise for you. You'll like this one. Oh, that's not what it was supposed to be. I'll fix it. Just get to going.
right? It's Kelly Green. It's getting close to it. The Eagles, 14-3, Super Bowl losers last year. The number 1 seed in the NFC. Nick Sirianni, their head coach, has brought the Eagles to the playoffs in his first 2 seasons, and to a 3-point loss in the Super Bowl last year against Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. He lost both coordinators over the offseason. Brian Johnson, the new offensive coordinator, is an in-house hire after being the Eagles quarterback coach for the past 2 years.
One day.
And Sean Desai is the new DC. And he's the first NFL coordinator of Indian descent. And he comes over for Seattle. So I think that's pretty cool. A breakout quarterback, Jalen Hurts, was defensively. They lost some stars, but brought in than it was last 5, number 1 seed in the NFC.
I think he's done.
Oh no. We lost him.
He did get some of the headlines in there.
I love how we actually heard every part that we needed to, but at the same time, like, we've been doing this for 4 years now, and this is the first time ever we've ever had a single technological problem. But breakout quarterback Jalen Hurts, I think he hinted on it. Braden, I got your Kelly Green up there. I hope you love it. He loves it. He loves it. That's all that matters. That's all that matters. Had the wrong color up there, but I blame Google for the first portion. Honestly, it's the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, they've had a phenomenal team year in and year out. I don't really have much to add onto any portion. Brent, you might from a Giants perspective, but other than that, we can roll straight into the playoffs here.
Yeah, I'm kind of bummed Braden wasn't able to finish his take because of the technological problems. But I do think that the Eagles take a little bit of a step back this year, and it's not due to anything with their roster. It's not due to anything with the coaching. It's just they had a 14-3 season last year. It's kind of hard to repeat that. So I think they do go 10-7 this season, but that'll still be good enough to make the playoffs. And we all know if they make the playoffs, it's definitely enough to make some noise. So we'll see how it goes this year.
Yeah.
I have a little bit to add. I think I don't see a hole in this team. You could say running backs, they don't have a star there, but they still have 3 serviceable running backs. They did lose TJ Edwards, which might hurt their linebacker core a little bit. But other than that, their team they might have the best roster in the NFL. I know I said that about the Niners earlier, but the Eagles actually have a really good quarterback. I have them going 14-3 again and still getting the number 1 seed in the playoffs.
Yeah, well, without further ado, kind of there, let's roll into the NFC, and then we will go matchup by matchup here super fast. We'll go around the horn. At your number 1 seed for the NFC, at 12 average wins here. Let me pull up exactly what it was at 12, 12, 14, and 10. And know that 14 was not from Braden, is the Philadelphia Eagles at number 1, getting another bye here for themselves to make it just an easier trip for them to make a splash in the NFL. Oh, I have another Braden. Whoa, double Braden. 2 Bradens. I think we need 3. Coming in at number 2 here with 11.75 average wins here from us at 12, 10, 13, and 12 is the San Francisco 49ers, 2 of the most dynamic offensive firepower houses. They will have to play a AFC wildcard match. We'll get to that here in just a second. So we had 12 average wins and 11.75 average wins based off of our playoff predictors from the 4 of us averaged out. Number 3 takes a dive of 2.25. And for the first time since 1993, this team is going to have a divisional championship, according to this podcast, at 9.5 wins with 10, 9, 10, and 9. It is the Detroit Lions at 9.5 wins. Definitely an interesting thing to keep your eye on as we continue to move forward here. As we're recapping, we'll move on to number 4. I mean, there's only one division left. I think it's very obvious which division it is. It's at 8.5 wins, so technically just going 8-1 is what we're predicting here. Is going to be at 8 wins, 7 wins, 10 wins, and 9 wins at 8.5 is the New Orleans Saints. Coming in at number 4 to round out your divisional winners. They're going to be taking on a 9.25 average winner, also coming from the NFC North, and the Minnesota Vikings coming back here as a wild card spot team. Not a wild card spot. They were the 3 seed last season. Just coming behind the Lions. Also losing the tiebreaker at 9.25 wins. At number 6 is the Madagascar famous line, the New York Giants at 9.25 as well, losing that tiebreaker to the Vikings based off of those tiebreaker rulings and regulations. At number 7, we'll just go ahead and throw in another NFC East team with 8.75 average wins in the Dallas Cowboys, just quite making the pot here at 10 wins, 11 wins, 8 wins, and then 6 wins. From one of our personnel on here on the podcast who's giving a little smirk. Other than that, that's how it's going to round out here. Let's go ahead and start picking some guys. A consensus is 3-1. If we hit a 2-2, we're going to have to figure something out, I guess. We'll let Carson's bear hat figure it out. In the AFC wildcard match, and honestly, this would be kind of fun to watch. Number 2 Kansas City Chiefs versus the number 7 New York Jets. I think this is an interesting matchup. I'll just go ahead and give my predictions here from you guys as well. I still think this is a Chiefs win. I'll give a score prediction as well, just for funsies. I'm going to go with the Chiefs winning this game 41-24.
Yeah, Chiefs at Arrowhead in the playoffs is tough, and I don't think the Jets are there yet. So definitely Chiefs for me.
Yeah,
I'm going with the Chiefs as well.
I have the Chiefs as well. I wasn't high on the Jets. I'm not really sure how they made the wild card in our predictions. I guess someone had it a little bit skewed, but I am not high on the Jets. I see the Chiefs blowing this one out.
Okay, we got the Kansas City Chiefs moving on in a 4-0 sweep here at the number 3 Cincinnati Bengals, a divisional matchup here against the number 6 Baltimore Ravens. In my opinion, the Bengals win this game 52-0. They're going to smack them.
Yeah, I'm not high on the Ravens this year either. So I'm with you on the Bengals.
Got the Bengals.
I will be the only one to take the Ravens in this game. I'm not as high on the Bengals this year as I have been in years past. I think this is the year Lamar stays healthy and they can actually do some damage.
Okay. In my opinion, game of the week, the number 4 Jacksonville Jaguars versus the number 5 Pittsburgh Steelers. I love every part of this matchup. Just based off of OG instinct here, not even thinking about it, I have the Steelers winning 27-24 in an absolute matchup.
Yeah, this is the rematch from 2017. I think I'm gonna go with the Steelers as well. I'm really high on the Steelers this year. I think they get one win in the playoffs.
I don't know if Braden's with us or not, but I will also take the Steelers. Their roster's just better constructed than the Jags, and they have the better coach.
Yeah.
Booyah. That's a sweep. We'll go ahead and Braden, are you with us or should we just sweep it? Oh, Braid Dog Dinosaur. All right. We'll continue on here with the NFC wild card. The number 2 San Francisco 49ers versus the number 7 Dallas Cowboys. I don't even think this is that big of a matchup for me. I have the 49ers winning this one by probably at least 2 scores, in my opinion.
Yeah, at least in this one, they can't put Zeke at center this year. So they might have a chance since they don't have Zeke at center. But I'm gonna go with the Niners.
Yeah, I'm also going to go with the Niners here. I'm not as high on the Cowboys as I have been in years past, and Mike McCarthy's not a good coach in the playoffs.
Fair enough. We'll transition here to the number 3 Detroit Lions versus the number 6 New York Giants. Brent, give us your first prediction.
Personally, I didn't have the Lions in my playoff picture, so I mean it might be personal bias here, but I'm gonna go with the New York Giants to win this one. They won as a 6th seed last year. There's no reason they can't do it again
against an NFC North team of all.
Mm-hmm.
I love this matchup. I think this could be the NFC matchup of the week. Both these teams are very young and are making pushes to be the best teams in their not in their division. The Lions are going to be the best team in their division. Giants aren't going to be there because of the Eagles, but I do have the Lions squeaking this one out in a really close game. I just think Dan Campbell is going to rally the guys together. And I'm sorry, Brent, but I do have the Lions.
I don't want to do this. This is difficult. I believe the Detroit Lions are a better team overall, but Brian Daboll's got some heart and passion and showed it last season as well. All right. Hey Siri, flip a coin. It's heads. Heads is the home team, so it would be the Detroit Lions for me. It comes down to that. I'm dead serious. That would be the absolute game of the week.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Either team can take that game.
Heading into our last matchup of Wild Card Weekend would be the number 4 New Orleans Saints versus the number 5 Minnesota Vikings. I don't even think this is a game. I think that the Saints get laughed out of their stadium and lose by 3 scores.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick the Vikings in this one. I have both teams in my playoffs, but I actually had the Vikings as the division winner of the NFC North. So I'm gonna pick the Vikings.
My pick doesn't matter at this point, but I do have the Saints in this game. I think I'm not too high on the Vikings this year. They won way too many games last year by just 1 score, and in my opinion, it was luck shown by the Giants in the playoffs last year. Kirk Cousins is not good in prime time.
Fair enough. Heading to our AFC divisional here now, down to our final 8. We had the number 2 Kansas City Chiefs versus the number 3 Cincinnati Bengals. I will jump in here first. We may have a split decision here, but I personally believe that Joe Burrow is going to show Burrowhead is again, and I like them to win this game. Highly anticipated matchup, 38-35. In a very cold Kansas City night.
Yeah, this always seems to be a good one in the playoffs. It's one we've been getting here for the past 2 or 3 years now. But I I can't bet against the Chiefs. I can't do it. I think they're so good. By the time they're in the playoffs, hopefully Kelsey will be 100%. It's just hard. It's hard for me to bet against them. I cannot bet against Mahomes. He's one of the best to do it. So I'm picking Kansas City Chiefs.
I guess it all comes down to me. You would think, since I chose the Ravens over the Bengals in the wild card matchup, you would think I would take the Chiefs here, but I'm actually not. Last year, I think, was a fluky game for the Chiefs against the Bengals in the playoffs. I think the Bengals should have won that game, and I think they will do it again this year.
Bye-bye, Patty. We'll roll into the second AFC divisional matchup, the Buffalo Bills versus the number 5 Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's talk about an absolute defensive show plus 2 offenses that could take it to town. It will be in Buffalo, but Pittsburgh's used to the cold here in December into January, as well as Mike Tomlin weather. I think this game's a lot closer than people are going to give it credit for, but I do believe that the Buffalo Bills would end up sneaking this one out. Home field advantage for Bills Mafia is huge. As much as I am so high on the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Cinderella story has to end at some point.
Yeah, I think both defenses are very elite, very similar with how talented they are. But the difference for me comes on the offensive side of the ball. The Bills are a lot better on offense, at least right now, than the Pittsburgh Steelers. And they've had the brunt end of things in the playoffs here recently. But I'll wait to say this later. But I'm picking the Bills here.
Again, my pick doesn't matter very much, but I do have the Steelers in this game. I think that Steelers defense is just going to get into Josh Allen's head in the red zone. Josh Allen does not play well in the red zone at all. He had the most turnovers in the league last year in the red zone. I think that Steelers defense gets to his head, and I think if the Steelers offense this year can be somewhat comparable, I think the Steelers pull this one out.
I think that's a fair take. I think this would be a phenomenal football game too. Yep. Going into the NFC divisional, as we've said, our AFC championship matchup, the number 2 San Francisco 49ers versus the number 3 Detroit Lions. Carson, I'll let you go ahead and start this one.
I do have the Niners in this game. No matter how much I love the Lions, the Niners defense is just way too good for the goofball. Nick Bosa is going to destroy that Lions offensive line, in my opinion. If he's lined up on the left side and not against Penei Sewell, I think he's going for 2 or 3 sacks in that game.
Yeah, I have the Niners as well. It's just too much talent that the Lions are not going to be able to counter. So I have the Niners.
Well, not that it means anything, but I have the clean sweep of the Niners here as well. Finally, Christian McCaffrey getting to a championship game, I think would be super cool for Panthers fans, since obviously we're not going to get there. But 49ers, and again, it's just that question at quarterback on how much this team can continue to go. But let's talk about who's going to be matching up against them. Brent, here for the divisional matchup between the Eagles and the Vikings, a rematch of the week 2 last season where the Vikings got embarrassed.
Yeah, and they actually play again week 2 this season in primetime, I think. So that'll be fun to watch. But if this matchup were to happen, it would be the second rematch of the season. I think the Eagles are a better team on paper. I'm willing to admit that, even though I'm a Giants fan, and I think they will win this one.
No matter how much I want to see Kirk Cousins in the conference championship, that would be really fun to see. I can't take him in this game. He sucked against the Eagles last year. He's going to suck against them in week 2 this year, and I don't see a different story in this game.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the Eagles, obviously not a 41-7 W possibly, but I think this Georgia Bulldogs defense is overwhelming, and the fact that this offense is absolutely astounding, and just too much for Jay Jettas in this squad for me this year personally. But I like the Vikings and what they're building in Minnesota. That takes us over. We're in our final four in our AFC Championship between the Buffalo Bills and the Cincinnati Bengals. I'll go ahead and head this one first. Brent second. Carson, round us out if we need it. And then, Carson, I'll have you start our NFC Championship. I personally think we say this every frickin' season, but I fully believe this is the Josh Allen and Buffalo Bills year. The Madden curse is stupid and does not exist. I just knocked on wood. I think this would be not just a crazy game, but a super emotional game considering the last time these two teams played. And I don't think I don't believe things are scripted in the NFL, but this would be one heck of a great game to have go into the Super Bowl. I got the Bills by the smallest margin possible.
Yeah, I think the Bills want a little bit of a redemption story. Like you've said, every year it's Bills Mafia. They're going to win the whole thing. This year, I feel like people are actually a little bit down on them, which might be a good thing for the Bills. And I think this is where they can really shine. And I think they'll win this one over Joe Burrow and the Bengals.
I personally didn't have either of these teams in my AFC Championship. That's crazy to say, but I wish there was ties in the playoffs because that's what I'd give this game. This game would be insanely close. I would have the Bills sneaking it out, though.
OT?
Maybe.
Who knows? We'll have the Buffalo Bills then heading off to Super Bowl 58. But the question here, Carson, on that first vote, then Brent, me to tie break it if we need it, between the Eagles and the 49ers, a rematch of last season's NFC Championship. What do we got?
Yeah, I see the Niners looking for revenge this year. Brock Purdy, I think they could have won that game last year if Brock Purdy and Josh Johnson didn't get hurt. CMC was going crazy in that first half. I think the Niners are going to pull this out in the rematch.
I have nothing to add to what Carson said because that's exactly what I was going to say. I think Brock Purdy will pull this out. I think if he played the full game last year, that I don't know if they would have won, but it sure as hell would have been a lot closer than it was. I think the Niners win this one.
Yeah, I honestly thought one of you were going to go Eagles, but I was going to split your decision anyways to the San Francisco 49ers. This team is all around perfect. I actually think if Braden was back on here, he would actually agree that the Niners are a better team this season. As much of a huge Eagles fan as he is, he knows football first. So I think that might have been a clean sweep here, especially with the Eagles having that 1 seed. But huge matchup, and if it were to happen, two of the most dynamic offenses facing off in the Super Bowl. The Buffalo Bills versus the San Francisco 49ers would have people talking for days, for weeks. Would be a huge Super Bowl matchup. I can't think of a better NFC team to come out of that bunch. Obviously, we talked about AFC is kind of a mixed jumble there. Brent, if you want to kick us off on this one, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, I was actually talking at work today with one of my coworkers about the Buffalo Bills because earlier in the offseason, I was like, I guess I was still getting over what they did in the playoffs. They put up a really, really poor performance. But like I said in the last segment we were talking about them, I think people being down on them this year will actually be a good thing for them. I don't think it's going to get in their heads. They have one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, one of the best wide receivers in the NFL in Stephon Diggs, and one of the best defenses in the NFL. And I think this is their year to win it all and to win the Super Bowl. That's my prediction. And that was my prediction even before we did this whole tournament thing. I think the Bills are going to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that would be a great story. From the lowest of lows last year with the whole DeMar Hamlin stuff in that Bengals-Bills game to the highest of highs to win in the Super Bowl this year. I unfortunately do not have them. I think the Niners have the better roster overall. I think Brock Purdy is going to be a really good quarterback in this league, and I think it's just going to be a great story since he was Mr. Irrelevant. And I see the Niners being a force to be reckoned with for a while.
Well, I guess I'll break it. Little just breakdown is the San Francisco 49ers and Christian McCaffrey making the Super Bowl would make my heart so happy. Finally getting the recognition that he deserves, praying that he stays healthy over the entire season. In my opinion, the Niners have a better offense, well-rounded. The issue is they don't have Josh Allen. Brock Purdy being the guy from Iowa State in his second season, Mr. Irrelevant, that can take you up to a certain point. And I think he did really well up to that certain point until tearing that labrum in the NFC Championship. I mean, there's nothing you can really do about that. On the defensive side of the ball, obviously, you have Von Miller, you have Vontae Davis, you have DeMar Hamlin, you have Tremaine Edmonds, on the 49ers side, all of those are wrapped into one in Nick Bosa. Just being straight honest. This would be one of the best Super Bowls I think we would have seen in a very long time. But I'm sticking to my gun of what I have the past 2 seasons, including this season being number 3. It has to be time for Bills Mafia to win. I mean, it has to be this year because it wasn't last year and it had to be, and it wasn't the year before and it had to be. And my Oracle pineapple plant said that it's going to be the Buffalo Bills. Track it, whatever you want to do. That's the not unanimous, but consensus Sports Outlet Show Super Bowl prediction. I'm almost positive that Braden also had the Buffalo Bills. It was either them or the Bengals winning the Super Bowl. But I mean, enough is enough. Stop playing around. It's 12:01 Eastern time. Happy NFL football kickoff day, by the way. Thanks for hanging out with us. Brent, Carson, do you have anything else to say here as we all just slumber one more night before kickoff? Kansas City Chiefs, Detroit Lions at 8:20 Eastern time.
No, it's getting pretty late. I'm excited for football. I wish Braden could have stuck it out here with us, but technical issues came in the way of that. He'll certainly be back for the next one. You guys can guarantee that.
Yeah, I do have a couple things to say here. Number one is for the playoff predictor. I actually had a team that didn't even make the playoffs for us in this bracket. I had the Dolphins winning the Super Bowl.
Oh, wow. I had them in my playoffs.
I love the Dolphins this year. I think they're going to be really good, but I won't speak too much on that. I also loved being here for these past 2 podcasts. I would love to be back in the future if you guys would have me. I think we had a great time, and I love go Bears.
I love Bears hat.
Considering you brought the Bears hat prop, I'm sure we'll have you on shortly. The Sports Outlet Show, we have been going nonstop and grinding since June 12th. So we're going to take a little bit of a break here, enjoy college football, NFL football. Don't you worry. We'll be recapping the season as we roll along next time we get on here. It'll be all over social, all over our media pages. And if you're comfortable enough to know me, you'll be getting spam texts when the Sports Outlet Show is back on live. But we're going to take a nice break here as we roll into the hefty season of college football and the NFL. Hey, before you know it, next time you see us, the NBA and NHL could be right around the corner. Keep watching MLB. Baseball's happening. We'll soon hit the sports equinox. Go Nationals. Sure, they're definitely in the playoff race.
No.
I'm Joe Wagner here with Thomas Rhett, Brent Allegra with the OBJ, and Dub Bears Carson Allegra, also alongside Philadelphia Eagles superfan Braden Wilkins, who hung out with us for most of tonight and is usually here 99.999% of the time as one of our other co-hosts. We'll see you out here on the Sports Outlet Show next time we see y'all. Thanks for tuning in, hanging out with us here late at night tonight. We'll see you guys next time. Baby, set your fantasy football lineup, get that last waiver wire ad, and sit Travis Kelce if you get a bad alert tomorrow. I'll be watching with you. Thanks so much for tuning in. Another thanks to Carson for joining us here back-to-back nights. This is Sports Outlet Show live here on YouTube. We'll see you guys next time.